So we're ready to go?
The spreadsheet that you see in front of you, I realize it's kind of small, but in order to get all those years onto the one sheet, I needed to make it that small. I put it up on the screen if you want to turn around and look at it a little bit. But first of all, let me explain some of the assumptions that I did for, this is the police department. On the very last page, you'll see down at the bottom, which I can read. You're going to see that this particular budget is based on 63 total FTEs in the police department. Wages for 2011, 12, and 13 are 0% increase. Years 2014, 2018, 2% annually. Health insurance is based on an 8% increase.
May I interrupt? Where?
Yes.
Oh, I see it. I found it.
The bottom there?
Yeah, it's bottom right there.
Under assumptions.
Yep.
Health insurance is based on an 8% increase annually. In talking with Susan today, that might not be enough, but hopefully we'll find out here shortly, and I'll be able to
It's fine to wear glasses or what?
No, the type of glasses.
Well, you got microscopic print here, so I have to see it.
I have never seen glasses like that before.
Excuse me. Dental insurance, 5% increase. A lot of non-employee expenses, I exactly determined there was going to be a certain amount, such as a lease on a copier or something like that. I put a 1.5% increase in expenses to carry it out through 2018. I've also done 3 options, and this is in regards to the property taxes. As you can see, option 1 is to use all available mills for police department. Option 2 is to reduce millage by the 1.5 mil, the same as in 2010. And option 3 is to reduce the millage by the 1984 1.5 mils, which is a lot less money. I've tried to show you the total taxes right under assumptions, the total taxes for each one of those options, and then the tax savings for option 2 and tax savings for option 3. And that's tax savings to the taxpayers. Okay? Do we have any questions so far to this point?
What's the indicator on health insurance? Do you have any kind of sense yet? I know that the health committee met yesterday.
Actually, just John and I met with him yesterday.
I mean, they've got really nothing, but from what I'm seeing, I wouldn't be surprised to see a 14 to 18%. And again, that's just kind of based on a feeling. He was going to pressure them today to give us a range so we can at least start to narrow it down. But we're running in the red pretty good this year. We'd like to get a run out paid for if we did decide to move at the end of next year. So, looking at all those factors, it's probably going to be a pretty substantial increase.
We just met with our health insurance agent at my law firm, and we are looking at a 39% increase.
Yeah.
And we're told to consider ourselves lucky.
I talked to my brother last night, and he has a medical practice in Ohio. He was telling me his was going up like 18%, and they were doing some very radical things to their program. So I think we better brace for that one.
Yeah, I think we better too. So the 8%, just make sure that you flag us when we get to that point and we see what kind of ripple effect it has.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, let's go back up to the revenue, and we'll just kind of go down through there. Okay, what you see into the column 2011, I've tried to darken it a little bit, but you're seeing the full option 1 taxes. That would be all the millages available to us. So the two taxes, if you look at the real estate tax, which is account 40101 and 40535, the rollback and homestead, those two will add up to the total amount of taxes. Tangible personal property, we don't budget anything. We might get a few bucks in because of some delinquent ones that have finally paid. Contracts, fees, the PSAP phone system is pretty consistent every year. Personal property cat tax, the cat tax, if you remember, replaced the tangible personal property tax, and that goes down like 10% every year. Started at a certain point, 2010, and will be reduced a certain percentage every year. I don't know what they expect to do, but okay. In that particular case, those are published numbers out on the state website, so you can go out and get those. Utility deregulation, pretty consistent. Intergovernmental, those are, what we put in there is when the police department has officers assigned to drug DUI,
Checkpoints.
yeah, and
Fugitive task force.
Okay, several places, they reimburse us for overtime. And those monies go into that, as long as it's intergovernmental. If it's a non-governmental entity that's reimbursing us for that, then it would go into a different place. Interest income, what do I say? I'm maxing out that as much as I possibly can all the time. This year is looking better than last year. As you can see, we budgeted 20. We're going to get about 65 this year in the police. I don't like to budget high on that because I don't know what the interest rates are going to do, because I know they just went down again.
Well, that's a pretty dramatic increase. Can we stop right there?
Mm-hmm.
What's the explanation for that?
Well, if you remember correctly, when we budgeted last year, I had no idea, but we started distributing the interest income not to just the general fund and the 202, 203, and 223 fund. We give it to the fire, the road and bridge and fire, and police. So every time when I get a CEDARS or CD that comes due or matures, I distribute those interest monies to that. And we've been fortunate in that we had a couple of CDs that were a year long, and got paid a little better interest rate. And those are what can you do throughout the year. There'll be another one here this month. In fact, we met on it. In fact, today is the day they mature, 2 of them. So we voted on to renew those. So that's why. I mean, I could raise it up, but I don't know what the interest rates. I just had lunch with Signature Bank, the guys there, and he said, the rates are going down.
Well, actual 2009 is a good number to work off of, but it's just such a jump where, at this point in time, we're projecting 65 at what have been historically low rates. Just something to talk about.
I mean, I could raise it up, but then, I don't know. I'm very conservative. I try to be ultra conservative when I budget for revenue and expenses. So that's why. I mean, I'd be more than happy if you wanted me to raise it up. I will. But the other is just a miscellaneous, $500. And then total of revenues of $7,456,214.
why is the cash balance up at the top for estimated 2011 so much lower than in prior years?
Well, because we're collecting X number of dollars. If you remember, we have that's an outside mill, and we're only allowed to collect X number of dollars, and we're reaching that point, with the holidays. We didn't collect the taxes, so they went down. The last 2 years we had tax holidays on that 1.5 million.
But if it was the last 2 years, if you look at actual 2009, wouldn't it have been reflected in 2009 as well?
It depends on what we spent in various areas, so.
All right.
In 2000 projected, those are estimates.
Oh, I understand.
Okay, so I'm looking at a period of time and trying to reflect what we're going to spend the rest of the year.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, that's fine. No. So, and as you can see, if you look at 2012, if we collect the whole amount of all the mills, it'll go back up again. So, okay, starting now we have the salaries. Again, salaries are 0% increase, and when I do the salaries, I don't look at the salaries from the previous year and say, okay, this is a certain percentage. I try to go in and do every employee. I look at every employee and look at their hourly rate, multiply it out, and base it on a certain percentage. So those administrative staff, support staff, officers, and dispatch. Longevity is based on every employee. Overtime is a number that we kind of have to guess at. Again, it's difficult, especially with the task force and stuff, because you never know how much they're going to work. Retirement is based on salaries and longevity, and overtime times the 18% this next year.
Get retirement on longevity?
Yep. To my knowledge, we do. We don't have to double check it.
Yeah, I don't think so, but yeah.
What's the question?
Well, here's the issue.
Get retirement on longevity.
Here's the issue. I can tell you right now, if we don't take retirement or PERS on longevity, then we have to do Social Security.
I think we do, Susan. We take PERS on longevity.
I thought it was considered like a bonus.
If it's no matter what it's considered. If you don't take Ohio PERS and pay Ohio PERS on it, you got to pay Social Security. So the employee would have to have Social Security withheld, and we'd have to match it. So. Okay, Carol, then we come down to then this Medicare, and then the next one is the insurance, medical, and drug. Now, would you like to, I think I can tell you fairly quick if we increased it by what would you like it to be? 50?
Did anybody check with Marissa to see what it is?
They won't give us a number.
Till January?
Well, there's some confusion that we had a February 1st renewal.
Right.
So they're saying that they weren't prepared to give us any numbers yet.
That's what they told us last year.
I believe last year's when they went on the February 1st renewal.
When we started with Omarissa in 2009, was it 9? Didn't we start in February?
Right.
I know we started, but I thought they made a switch this year to 2010, to January.
I think there was some confusion on that topic, but we are slated for a 2-1. We are currently under the assumption that we will be moving it this year to the 1-1. And so they are trying to push, get our numbers ready, but again, they're struggling to get that.
Well, let's
So we were
just-
pushing for just a range even.
Let's try 18%.
18?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if it's working the way it's supposed to work. And it didn't.
Yeah, it's almost 20% higher.
Although it was supposed to,
Oh.
I know why it didn't work. Because I copied this file yesterday after I worked on another budget. And it's, so I can't, I'd have to go back and change it.
Yeah.
We'll just, when we find out, we'll make the correction.
Well, it's roughly another 100,000 off of the projected.
Yes. Okay, any questions on the fringes? The wellness, health and wellness, that's based on $35 per employee per month.
That's better than I thought it was, John. I thought it was $35 for the year, but it's per month.
Okay, yeah.
That'll work good.
Yeah.
It's been our experience that we don't spend that whole thing so far, but
Going down through to the non-wage related or employee related. We've got legal counsel. And just to let you know, we're not quite done playing with this budget. We've got some minor adjustments that Nancy and I need to talk about. And most of them, Nancy indicated to me, were lowering of some numbers, so, which is fine with me.
All of them,
Huh?
all of them are lower.
Okay, so we just need to go in and make, but we had to cut it off at a certain point, so. And auditors and treasurer's fees, I may have to raise that, because that's a wild one. Training, budgeted about the same as last year.
Chief, what's the training based on? What is the training figure based on? I mean, we've got that budgeted, but
It's based pretty much on what we've spent in the past with, we have a core training that we do in the spring. Well, that really doesn't cost us much. It's basically what we've done in the past.
Are you asking about, it's for charges for
I'm not sure I understand.
coursework that the officers or dispatchers go to? Is that what you're
well,
asking?
pretty much. I'm assuming that we base it on track record, what we've been doing, but I
Right.
didn't know if we were building in any kind of anticipated specialty training that you might want to do, or if there's...
Oh, I see. Well, a lot of the training we do doesn't cost us in the spring. It's internal. We've tried to get more and more officers as instructors in specific specialty areas, so that didn't cost us. It's basically tuition, like some of the courses are more expensive, like John Zamini has a new detective. He's been down in North Carolina for the last 2 weeks, and obviously that cost us quite a bit for accommodations and the training itself and everything else. But it's You know, it's according to need. We may identify, you know, that we need, for example, we were lucky as far as getting the 9 officers in the free CIT training. We anticipated having to spend quite a bit of money trying to get officers trained in handling distraught and disturbed, mentally disturbed people. So it's, you know, it's based on what we've done in the past, but year to year, we don't know what may become available for us to be able to get specialized training.
So it's difficult to look forward very far.
It is,
Okay,
yes.
that's what I wanted to know.
Okay. Computer services, we've increased that $1,000 because we're utilizing that pretty much. Lease and principal is the same. Equipment repairs and maintenance agreements, we raised that up because we felt that this next year even though we budgeted 64 last year, we only spent 57 in 2009. We're probably going to spend about $7,000 more this year, so we increased it a little bit more.
We have to pick up the maintenance on the MDTs and the 800 megahertz radios that were under warranty that we got from the county. They're out of warranty now, so we have to pick up maintenance agreements.
And they account for $7,400.
So that's kind of the difference, you know.
No, that's why you're here.
Yeah?
Okay, vehicle maintenance and parts, pretty much what we budgeted last year. Building rent, we were able to lower because we have one less building, if I remember correct. Travel expense, we're budgeting what we expect to spend this year, not what we budgeted. Building repairs, we budgeted a little less than this current year, but a little more than what we anticipate spending. Lodging, a little bit more than what we anticipate, but a lot less than what we budgeted for this current year. Postage and shipping, we raised a little bit. Electric, I don't know how to budget electric. Never did. I mean, I could look at what we spent in the last year and 12 months, and who knows what the rates are going to be.
They go back to PUCO and get an increase, they can do that.
Yeah. Water and sewer, we had to raise. You had requested that increase, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Based on what's been
We're going to
spent,
be
yeah.
just a little bit
Okay.
short for this year, so we just increased it so it would match.
Natural gas, phone service, miscellaneous utilities, waste pickup, insurance, property, casualty, raised a little bit, but I have no idea if our rates are going to go up, Susan.
No, they've stayed pretty steady the last few years, so.
Okay. Office supply.
Let's go back to miscellaneous utilities, sorry. That number, although it's small, is bouncing around a lot. I mean, actual, 600 in 2009, budgeted 3,200, projected 1,200, I mean, it's
The only thing that we're paying out of there now, I can't honestly tell you what, can't remember what we anticipated this for 2010, but we're paying,
Broadband service at Mayberry only.
I'm sorry?
Broadband service at Mayberry only out of
Okay.
that account. So the $1,200 should be.
That's a pretty solid figure
It
compared
should
to
be, yes.
2,000, okay.
okay, office supplies, we budgeted about what we had this current year. Supplies, the same. Building materials, training supplies, tools and equipment. It was recommended that we wanted to raise that,
Yes.
and that was,
We have some purchases. We need new holders for the portable radios on all the officers' belts, which would amount to about 47 of them. Ballistic shields, we're going to carry one in each of the 2 command cars. It's like I hate to say like you see on TV, but it's a shield they'll carry up with them if you've got an active shooter situation or what. That's for 2 radar units. And just to, like decals and revamping a second citizens patrol vehicle. That only amounts to about $1,200, but because we use a retired cruiser, but obviously there's some equipment and graphics we have to put on it.
And that's all under tools and equipment? Is this the same category name in all of our accounts, tools and equipment?
It is now.
Go down memory lane. When I think of tools and equipment, it's more of a language problem, but I think of tools. I don't think of police active things that they need to do their job. I don't know if this is the only place, this is the most logical place, because these are the kind of things that, it's interesting to know, it's interesting for the public to know, and certainly the board needs to know that our police officers are well equipped, and I don't know that you normally find it in something called tools and equipment.
Well, tools and equipment are 2 separate things. You get tools and equipment. You could separate them, but it was recommended when they set these account numbers up that they put them together. Like in Greg's category, tools and equipment, it's going to be, you're going to have the mechanic.
He's really going to have tools.
And he's going to have equipment. Okay,
right.
Okay, so, and it's items that cost less than $5,000?
Okay.
Anything over 5 is in the capital equipment fund?
I just think it's important to point out that this category, there are nuances of difference as we move from department to department. And things like what police officers need to do their jobs, it's important that we don't forget that that's where it is.
Okay. Garage supplies and expense, I think, yeah, okay. Garage supplies and expense is a category that was just started, I think, in 2009, but it's items that are bought out and the mechanics will buy like a barrel of oil. Okay, and when you buy that oil, you have no idea where it's going to be used, whether it's going to police or fire or road and bridge. So we put that under garage supplies and expense, and we split it a third in all the categories. So that's what that is. Clothing, gasoline and fuel. We raised gasoline and fuel quite a bit because it looks like we're going to end up spending that amount of money this year. Fuel prices have went up significantly in the last year or so. This particular line is a new one, communication equipment. I added it in here, and if you look at the bottom of page 3 or the very last page, it will tell you what that line is. And that is mobile vision, video server, installation training, in-car camera, and wireless access point, and Symetra LX replacement batteries. All involved with the communication.
What it amounts to is we propose going to we have just a couple of older, outdated in-car cameras now, and we're going to something like the city has. Actually, it's what the city has. And it's going to be in a phased process. This gets us the server, and I believe 2 cameras initially, and then we'll probably purchase a couple cameras each year at a cost of about $5,000 a camera until we have the whole fleet outfitted with the in-car, and it's all automated. It's great. It downloads when you pull in. There's no kind of CDs or DVDs or anything that the officers have to take out of the cars. It's all automatically stored and such, so that we'll have that.
The next item is office equipment, and there's also a big increase there, and that is again explained at the bottom of the page. It includes 5 computers and 18 user licenses for Office 210, as well as the replacement of existing furniture, and then we've kind of split it out. The dollar figure from what, the increase. Dues and subscriptions, advertising delinquent lands. This was a wild one. I have no idea what the treasurer's going to do. Conferences and registrations is the same. Drug testing the same. Tuition reimbursement, that's one that Nancy and Rob asked me to increase. You have some specific. This is where an employee goes, takes college credit courses, and we will reimburse.
Contractual issue.
Tuition only. We don't do books or anything else, but tuition only.
And we spoke to one of our officers, it's one of our rookie officers, it's going to take, I believe it's 18 credit hours, and computed out, that's what it amounts to.
It's a full load.
That's a full load.
Yeah, well, over the course of a year, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, receipt shortages, I got $10 in there. We had an incident where we had some come up short. It only happened once, but I don't think it's going to happen again, but just in case. Other expenses, safety town we lowered.
Well,
Okay.
other expenses.
Yeah,
I know we've been working hard with the other category.
Yeah.
But that's a big number just to be other.
Well, it's a lot more. All I can tell you is a lot more than what it was, but.
I know,
Yeah.
it's going in the right direction.
Yeah. You know, as you can see, we spent $18,000 in 2009, we budgeted 29. We don't spend it unless we have it, or absolutely need it. I mean, I can lower that if you'd like, it's the same as what we think we're gonna spend this year, but we've lowered Safety Town, we took Scalia certification out.
Why did we lower safety town, excuse me?
They didn't think they were gonna have to spend as much this next year in Safety Town as they did this year.
We have about $1,000 balance right now, and
Okay.
Safety Town's over. So.
Okay, I just knew that their rates went up last year, what the teachers received.
Mhm.
But you must
But
still
you
have
don't
I
know.
think a lot of the equipment bought and, you know, the little cars and all
Gotcha.
that sort of
Mhm.
thing.
Are you saying, Susan, that the rates are going up for this coming year?
No,
Okay.
No, they went up last year for the teachers.
Yeah.
They might be if the levy fails. Because they're gonna look at other ways to get revenue.
Okay, these next two are new to the police department this year, and this is the scanning services. The scanner is now installed. I think, have you been over there trying to get the time to
Training
get
has not
trained?
started yet, but he's been in contact with us
Okay. I
next
know
week.
the fire has been trained, and Jennifer is now starting to put stuff in. And then we will, this particular line item is to get caught up. Okay, so to go out and get caught up. The next one is to, image silo is for the cost of storing it at the site in Denver.
So is that a contract rate straight across then?
Actually, it depends on how much space you use. So, building cleaning contract, is lowered.
I don't know why we don't do that in-house. We have the equipment.
Okay, transfers in, there's a set figure that, we in the past, that the fire department has paid for fire dispatch. That's based on the salaries of employees. No advances. Transfer out capital equipment and permanent improvement. Allocated cost is the dollar figure per employee that they pay to the general fund for payroll services, for accounting services, for HR services. Okay, and then the transfer out building and maintenance mechanics. The police department pays for 1/3 of the mechanics' wages and benefits, and pay for 70% of the maintenance person. George is probably over there a little more than that, but we bill him for 70% of his cost, and we, Road and Bridge takes 15, and the general fund pays 15%. And then we come down to our several options. Based on the numbers up above, you can see that if we continue to collect the total millages based on 0, 0, 0, we'll be able to go all the way up through 2018. If we continue to have the tax holiday for the same millage that we're having now, we'll only be able to get through 2013. If we still want to do a tax holiday, but we take that older one that's only like 600 and some thousand, we'll be able to, and do that every year, we'll be able to get through 2017, through 2016. We'd run out of money in 17. Now, I could have done a lot of variables to that. You know, if you'd like me to do it, I can do it. I mean, but, you know, with the 2 mills or whatever, you could do them for 1, 2 years, the holiday, and then you do this, or, you know, a combination. So
Yeah.
I could have done about, 15 to 20 of those combinations. So if there's one particular area that you would like me to, or one particular scenario that you'd like me to do, I'd be more than happy to do it.
In terms of the scenario that we're working from, which is no tax holiday, 0, 0, 0, the excess deficit line running across, that's a significant carryover from year to year. Do we actually go out under this scenario past 2018 if we had a longer piece of paper?
Yeah.
No, I've only done through 2018.
So we don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, because I look at that as a significant carryover for any government budget.
I know it's difficult to guess and gauge, but like, what would that save a homeowner if we,
I can't tell you what it would save a homeowner, but I can tell you what it saved all the homeowners.
$1 million.
It's right,
It's in brown there?
yes, right there. Option 1, option 2 is going to save all the taxpayers $1,060,700. And the taxpayer, option 3 would save all the taxpayers $660,000.
Which is $60 a year on option 3, approximately per household. And on option 2, it would probably be about $90 a year per household. That's what I'm averaging. Based on all collections.
Okay.
And I understand your point about the carryover, but to me, with the economy, I don't want to go back to taxpayers and ask them for anything if we don't have to right now.
Well,
they need a
it's
break
really-
right now too?
Yeah, it's really difficult to project more than 5 years out.
Yeah.
I mean, the further out you get, the more vague things are. You know, things could get better, they could
Especially
get
with
worse.
the health insurance costs going up.
Yeah, I
every
mean,
year.
don't get me wrong. You know, I'm
I
aware
could
of
use
that.
$90 right now myself, but I mean, I don't want to put us in a jeopardy situation where we're going to have to go back and ask for millage in a couple of years because we run out of health insurance money. Because if it doubles in a few years, the way this new system's going to be by 2014, when all the episodes are implemented, and then they're going to be capping everybody for the money back.
I understand. I'm just pointing out
Yes.
an observation that is a significant carryover for a long period of time. And we began collecting in the second half of 2004 on the most recent levy. We anticipated that that levy was going to go out 5 years. You know, getting 6 or 7 years is good, getting 8 years is great. Getting 14 years, you know, we really got to stop and take a look at what we're doing here. That's
But
a
we're not
lot.
going to be collected anymore after the period of time that it's collected for.
What do you mean?
And it's just a carryover from the levy, it's not with a renewal or nothing.
We're talking apples and oranges here. I'm just looking at the budget carryover, excess deficit from operations, takes the levy monies that we're currently collecting, which are all continuing levies, out a really long time if we make other changes. It's just philosophically, you know, where do we all fall on that issue? You know, do we refund it to the taxpayer? Do we do things that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do? Do we leave it that way, you know, because we're concerned that the sky will continue to fall? These are it's just something to think about. We're not going to make any decisions today.
I know.
That's a lot of money to have sitting there not doing anything.
It's okay, Chicken Little.
No, I'm not being chicken little. You are.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, right now, a levy's only for a certain period of time.
No, it's not. It's continuing.
It's a continuous levy?
Yeah, it's a continuing levy. It's on the books forever.
Well, I can't see doing anything at this point in time because I'm not predicting what's going to happen in 11. We can revisit it next year. Right now, I'd rather make sure that we have our eggs covered and make sure the police department's doing the best possible it can with the services that it's allowed, because with Toledo possibly going down the tubes next year, I want to make sure we're secure, because who knows what kind of people are going to move out this area. And I want to make sure we're secure.
It's good to have these options, because I think we're going to find out more data, you know, as we go along, and then we
As soon as
can
we get our questions in January.
make a better informed decision at that time.
Right, and we'll know more about the health insurance.
Well, you have to make a decision on the rollback by
Well, we have to,
Tuesday.
if we're going to roll back, we have to decide by Tuesday. 'cause we-
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay. I
that's,
didn't realize that time frame.
yeah.
Makes it a little more challenging.
Um,
So we'll be voting on that Tuesday?
Well, unless
choose to.
unless we don't make
Choose
a
not.
motion to do it.
Okay,
But that's our deadline if we were to do it.
okay.
Frankly, my inclination is not to do it either. I'm really happy that we've done it the past 3 years, but rather than having made a rollback permanent, I thought we should evaluate it year to year.
That's what I think.
I'm really hoping, you know, I was hoping that we'd have a more solid number on the,
Healthcare?
yeah, that's the word. However, I am bothered by having such a huge carryover. I am very comfortable, in fact, pretty proud that we, even under the second scenario, but even under the first, where we roll back the 2010, like we did in 2010, we still carry the budget out, carry the next time that we would have to go to the voters out 10 years, twice as long as we had originally thought. I mean, that's really good work. And that's with giving money back to the taxpayers for 4 years in a row. You know, I don't believe in collecting it if we don't need it either.
Single sheets of paper that you got. This is your capital improvement fund and your permanent improvement. The one that's this portrait is the capital equipment. The one that's landscape is the permanent improvement. Capital equipment first, the one that's portrait. As you can see, we're anticipating, I don't know if you're familiar with these two particular funds, but the police department as well as the fire and the general and whatever have put money into these funds over the years. And the money stays there. It stayed there if we didn't use it. I'm anticipating a carryover in the police department fund balance for 1/1/2011 of $205,000. We have budgeted, $100,000 to be transferred in there. And we'd like to buy, or I've been requested to put in the budget, 6 new cars, a safety township trailer, a new speed trailer, a second speed trailer, and a fingerprint desktop model. That's the digital, I think, Rob, it's not the old.
Sensor prints electronically.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I've also tried to budget through 2015 as far as other capital expenditures are concerned. But I guess we're really concerned about 2011.
Does the police car purchase include the 2 cars that you had anticipated buying in 2010 plus 4?
Yes, it does. That's why we're asking for 6 instead of 4.
Okay.
And I went through with the mechanics, and the next time that we would receive cars after we ordered 2011, obviously we ordered cars 2012, but we wouldn't receive them until July or August of 2012. We're going to retire out at least 6 of them. I got the numbers and everything, the mileage, but we're going to retire out at least 6 of them by July of 2000. Of course, that's 20 months down the road too. But we'll retire out at least 6 Crown Vics by July of 2012.
Do you have a schedule of your planned vehicle retirement schedule handy, or is that something that I should look at another time?
It's not really in a written policy. We retire them at 120,000 miles, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, we retire them at 120,000.
So how many, that's roughly for a year out of a fleet of how big?
We run 13 currently in the fleet. And I'm talking just the actual cruisers. 13 with a 14th that we are just in the process of putting on the road that we call like a covert vehicle. It doesn't have the lights on top of the vehicle. It's going to be used in some specialized enforcement, following school buses, different things like that, where we need a more covert operation. It's got a little different decals on it and such. And we just actually this past week put that out. But 13 used in regular patrol.
So it looks like you're retiring cars roughly every 3 years.
Yes.
Is that pretty average for a police department with the kind of geographic area that we've got in the...
You know, I can't say time-wise. I can tell you that there are departments that retire cars at 75 to 80,000 miles. There are departments, well, the sheriff's department, obviously, they used to go to 200,000 miles. But what we've learned through talking to the mechanics and such is that the costs start to outweigh, okay, when you drive them.
We've all
the
owned
higher
cars, we know how that
mileage.
works, yeah.
And one thing we've done too is with 13 cars in the fleet now, with the exception of 2 cars, I believe, we've got 2 officers per car instead of the 3 that we used to do. When they're not driven constantly 24/7, it seems to help them a little bit, and maintenance is down too. Gary said that there's a significant difference in going with the 2-man rotation in most of the cars instead of the 3-man.
Okay. And Crown Vics are still the half car of choice?
Well, through next year, but then after that, we're going to have a big decision to make because their Crown Vics in 2012 won't be available. It's called a Ford Taurus if we stay with Fords. Looks like a really neat car, but we'll have to balance that. There'll be a Chevy Impala and there'll be a Dodge Charger. But what we found, at least thus far, because we looked at Chargers a couple years ago, is for all the equipment in the back, in the trunk, and for the room in the back seat for some really big prisoners that you get sometimes, the bigger car, the Crown Vic, is better. I anticipate the Taurus will be bigger than the Charger, the Impala, but we'll have to look at that when it comes.
Okay, thanks.
Charger has some small windows.
Yeah, the visibility isn't really good either.
Cool looking car though.
Yeah, it is. It's, well, when you look at these police magazines, as far as the sharpest cars with decals, they all tend to be Chargers, because
Oh,
they
yeah.
look real sharp, but you got the functional part of it too.
Yes, you do. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
The other sheet, the landscape sheet, is the permanent improvement, and there's been a request to put in two items. And as you can see, that I'm anticipating a $325,000 fund balance carry forward, and we're going to put another 50 in. But they would like to purchase, and these are estimates. They're not, we don't have exact numbers as of yet, but a gate, there's a gate on the south side and fence the north side. It's pretty easy to get into the back there of the fireplace, or in the back of the fire or police department right now, so even I could drive back there, and that's pretty dangerous, so. They would like to put up a gate, and would probably be controlled by dispatch or whatever. And then the second item is the flooring in the back. Is it the back of the building?
Yeah, the hallways and all the hallways in the building mostly.
You can explain that one a little better than I can. So.
Well, we found that, number one, that floor is very, very, very slippery when it's wet. In fact, a couple of years ago, we had a dispatcher slip and hurt his back, and was out quite some time. It was a workers' comp issue. Plus the maintenance, it's like those tile floors that you got to polish all the time and such, and strip, and there's just a tremendous amount of maintenance where there wouldn't be with a tile floor. So we'd eliminate the slippery floor and spend a lot less of George's time or somebody else's time redoing the floors all the time.
And in addition, they're old. They're very old and
Well, it's cracking in places too, actually, where the old building was and the new building, or the new part of it starts. There's a lot of tiles there from the uneven settlement where the tiles are actually cracking and stuff.
if we could go back to that gate for just a second. The gas tanks are back there and anyone can drive back, and if someone decided to drive back, we'd have to call the police to come and catch them because they wouldn't be sitting in our department for it. There's a generator that needs to be enclosed. But in addition, the fire department keeps a lot of equipment back there, and this is something that we think we should probably suggest that the fire department would want to share with us, because it's their equipment back there that's also in jeopardy, so to speak.
You have to call the sheriff's department?
Yes, exactly, sure.
Well, I'd like to suggest that both of those issues are safety and security issues, and they should be addressed as soon as possible. And I appreciate you budgeting them in 2011, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't address them in 2010. I'm not sure budgetarily what needs to happen, but certainly let's not just wait until January, because when you talk about a slippery floor, we're going into wet snow, ice season. And the security with the gas tanks, it's more than just people maybe reaching the gas tanks.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real security issue. We should not delay on this at all.
Another thing you'd have to do is increase the appropriation in that line item this year. There's money there, so.
And a lot more research.
I mean, we're already creeping up here towards the end of the year, so by going out and getting bids and things, we'll, at least be ready to go 1/1, but again, if there's an opportunity, we can certainly address it and move it forward. I think they are critical items. I even drove back there once just to see what was there, and, not that I was doing any harm, but I was kind of surprised that nobody asked me or did anything, so.
We already had one bid on the flooring, and that was $16,200 if I remember correctly. But we wanted to get it in because especially with the gate, I have a lot more research to do on that. What's the best way to go with it? That $30,000 seemed like an awful lot for a gate to me, but it included repaving and different things like that. I believe it included keypads, and we were even thinking or looking at something like Greg has over here on the south side, where you have a keypad and such. But again, we'd want to solicit at least 3 bids and a lot of research to go into that.
Well, there is. I'm just saying, don't wait until the first of the year on either one of these issues to get the ball rolling.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
If I may add, on the flooring issue, we currently have that in the road department lunchroom and in my office, if you want to look at just what we've done.
Oh, so you want new flooring?
We've already done that.
Okay.
What Rob is detailing with his hallway floors, we already have that in the road department.
The new
If you want
stuff.
to look at what is.
Okay.
I didn't realize that. We just did a bunch.
We had Hoover Wells do that about 10 years ago.
That's where our estimate is from.
Well, back to the extension, how long we're going to run out on the operating budget, how many years we can run out. And I'm sorry that Kevin's not here because certainly I want to give him credit for talking about if we don't do a rollback, we want to make sure that here you come, I was just giving you credit.
It was?
You had
Ran
mentioned,
sample.
well, in just general talking about how long we can take a levy out and whether we should do a rollback, you talked about capital expenses and looking at, what happens to the capital equipment funds in 5 years. We're down to not being able to do a whole lot, or really anything. So that is something to factor in.
Well, my only goal was that we can't predict what the future's going to hold. I don't know where the economy's going to hold. To hold off for this year and possibly next year, I'm looking at if revenues start picking up and the economy starts picking up and things start happening, then I would love to give money back to the public. But right now, I'm afraid to, due to the fact that the last thing I want to do is go to the taxpayers and say, oh, we want a levy. And they're going to say, well, what happened to the levies that were already there? You gave us the money back, now we need more money again? I mean, if you don't need the money entirely, that's one thing, but if we need it to keep continuing on in the lifestyle of the police department that we want to keep it in, then we have to maintain this levy. I mean, example, the fire levy was never enough, and I don't want to get into that, but...
We'll in a couple weeks.
What I'm saying, though, when we get to that point, we're going to have to still go back to the taxpayers after that one's expired and say, okay, we need an operating levy of this much, and they're going to say, we gave you money for the fire department.
Just to clarify, they don't expire. They're continuing forever. But because of the way outside millage works,
Correct.
they decline in value,
Yes.
particularly in a declining,
Actually, you don't collect any more dollars. You collect the same amount of
Correct.
dollars
right.
every year thereafter that you collected the very first year, based on that valuation. When you return, your
Unless you get a
valuation goes
replacement.
up, but the rollback comes,
Yeah.
brings it back down.
Brings it back down.
Mhm.
That's right. But what I was just saying is, one thing to consider that isn't on our operating funds expense sheet is capital equipment funds by department. And, if we know that we're going to have other capital expenses that we can't project out, but we'd like to put in, that's another reason which you had mentioned
Correct.
casually before, that, there may be some other things we want to do to the building or to the fleet.
And upgrades and stuff, because I don't want to keep asking people for more money, and if you have it, people don't get upset, but when you ask them for more, that's when they get upset.
Well, let me chime in there. Nobody wants to ask people for more money.
Right.
But on the other hand, we have to justify sitting on,
Maybe as long as they like to ask for
a
more money.
$3.5 million, we aren't using this money thing.
Yeah,
We have to be able to explain what we're going to do with it.
yes.
And we can always change whatever option next year.
That's what I said.
But I would like to be able to explain, okay, when we have this length of, this amount of excess, this is what our plan is and why we're allowing it to go forward. I think it's important to be able to do that. Okay.
Okay, any questions on the police?
No, sir.
Okay, then let's go to Larry Marsh. I purposely did not give you that, so you wouldn't get confused.
You're just dribbling it out just a little bit at a time, huh?
Right. Okay. Hand those out, and hand one of these out too. Well, let me get an opportunity here to close.
Thanks.
And I'll bring it up on the screen.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, basically the same assumptions as we talked about in the police department. We're talking about here in the road and bridge. Again, you can go to the last page, and I think it's page 4. And you're talking about 0, 0, and 0 for 11, 12, and 13, and 2% for that. Again, we're dealing with the 8% in the healthcare, the 5% in the dental. We're figuring about a 1.5% increase in property taxes, which we can argue about for eons, but those are the basic assumptions that we're using. Now, this particular spreadsheet is a little different than the police department in that I've consolidated 3 other funds into it. You'll see that you'll say operating motor vehicle license tax, operating gasoline tax, road and bridge, and permissive. I kind of look at, when we deal with the road and bridge department, I look at those 4 funds all together because Greg will use monies out of all 4 of them. So I tried to put all 4 of them together in this big spreadsheet. As you can see, on 2011, we've got cash carryover from the year. Get down to revenues, motor vehicle license tax, township levy. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but there's a portion that on the motor vehicle license tax that the township is levied. There's a portion that the county is levied. And then there's interest for the motor vehicle. Gasoline fund, which is the 203 fund. There's gasoline tax. There's a cents per gallon. And I don't even pretend to understand how they calculate that. So I get reports on a monthly basis to make sure that they agree to what we're being paid. Interest, again, real estate taxes. Those are based on what I was told were going to be for next year on the inside village. Rollback, personal property cat tax is the same. We talked about that in the police. Utility deregulation. There's some joint OPWC funding monies that we get. Interest income. I know I'm going fast. If you want me to slow down, just yell at me. Infrastructure contributions, other, and then we get into the permissive motor vehicle license tax. I don't know the difference between the permissive and the license tax, vehicle license tax. Do you know the difference there?
Several years ago, the trustees passed a resolution to enhance or to increase the tax.
Okay.
And that money is strictly for the township. I believe there's a small percentage remaining that the trustees can increase that legally. I believe it was Bruce Warren, Dean Allen, and Lucille Lasky.
Are we talking about the inside mills or the permissive?
No, we're talking about the permissive motor vehicle license tax.
We have the ability to change that as well?
We can increase it.
Trustees?
I believe there's a little bit of room left to increase that.
Oh. Okay.
I learned something too. So. Again, the first section is the wage and salary section. And again, there's no increase in wages. Overtime is based on historical cost, our estimated historical cost. A lot of that, you just never know, depending on how the winter goes, etc.
If it's based on historical costs, why does it double?
Well, we don't know, you know what the winter's gonna be?
Yeah, but that's not based on historical costs, that's guessing.
Well, that's the basis that we begin with.
It is.
Guessing, that's a
Yeah.
good one. It's guessing. We don't know what the winter's gonna hold.
I know, but if you're basing it
You're
on
right.
historical costs, you
No, you're right.
you go somewhere between 45 and 30,
You're
not
right.
62.
Well, I think we looked at historical costs and then said, okay, we're gonna double.
I like that.
because we don't-
We're going to double historical costs.
Yeah.
All right, I just want to understand.
Yeah. Retirement's based on the percentage, 14% Medicare. Again, insurance and medical and drug, we'll have to increase that if it goes up higher. Life insurance, dental, health and wellness is the same, $35 per person per month, and workers' comp.
Unemployment.
Well, unemployment is, I don't know if we're gonna, we pay as an as-needed basis, or in other words, if somebody continues to draw, and I know we had the one individual, but that's next year, are we gonna run out of money or what?
Did we use that in either one of the 2 years?
I'm sorry, we
Did
have
we use that in 2010?
unemployment?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had the one employee that
Right.
was drawing.
Well, we don't have anybody else right now.
No, not in that department. Legal counsel, auditors and treasurer's fee, a lot of the same counts as in the police, training.
Can we go back up to legal counsel?
Mhm.
We've been doing an allocated portion on legal counsel. Is the 20,000 just basically using the same allocation?
It's a guess on my part, okay, because of negotiations coming up this year.
All right.
Don't let's get removed since we're using our prosecutor.
Yeah, how are we gonna charge that out?
Well, we really haven't talked about that, and I assume that's how we were doing it for police, based on our new
I didn't even think
contract
about it
now.
for
So I'm
police.
wondering whether we need to just tweak that figure a little bit based on allocating. I mean, all the departments are negotiating.
Right, but aren't you going to do all of them at the same time?
Yeah, I'll be,
In other words, when you sit down on Friday at 9 AM, are you going to be doing all three unions at the same time?
No.
You're going to be doing each individual union, and in that time, you're going to have to ask that attorney, say, okay, this is how much time I spent on that.
but we're not
We're not
doing
paying attorney.
negotiations by the hour.
Yeah.
We have a flat fee.
Oh, okay.
We're not gonna be paying attorney fees much
Okay, I
anymore.
haven't seen the contract.
Yeah.
Okay, then maybe we want to get together and correct those amounts so that
Yeah.
it reflects the flat fee. We have a flat annual fee.
Okay.
So it would certainly seem to me, although I think that there will be a disproportionate amount in the police department, it couldn't be a third, because you've got three unions there, as opposed to one in the road and one in
Unless they
fire.
all negotiate together, which has been done in the past.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Let's hope that we can. That, which actually would raise this figure, unfortunately.
Oh, we could always look at, base it on the number of employees.
Okay, but I think we need to talk about how we're going to apportion that, because that's a new way of doing things.
Once they take it over, they'll change.
You can see a lot of it's basically the same as this year. Storage rental, we lowered a little bit. Doesn't look like we're gonna spend anything, but we lucked out this year in that we don't have to pay for our salt storage.
Whatever happened to that? Where are we storing it?
Well, since we are one of the preferred customers
Oh,
at
well.
North American Salt, since we honored our commitment and North American Salt did not spend legal money fighting us, they're now allowing
Kept
us
it
to
for free.
store the salt at the dock for free
Okay.
up to the end of the year.
We have to get it by the end of the year, we talked about.
Yeah, so we might still need some of that $5,000 in the next year.
Hopefully, if we have some snowy December, we use some of our salt and get some of that filling up our thing, because
Greg and
how
I-
many tons left? 30 tons?
Greg and I even talked about the possibility
2100.
of a second
100 tons?
2,100.
Tons?
storage dome.
Is that what's over there, right?
So, we do have some money in the Road and Bridge Permanent Improvement Fund that we could tap if we wanted to do a second dome.
The Farmer's Almanac is calling for a snowy and cold December, so.
Oh, really? How are the furry caterpillars?
We'll have plenty of salt, Brian.
Yeah.
Again, as we go down through here, I think unless you have any questions on the various accounts, tools and equipment we've lowered a little bit. Garage supplies and expense lowered over this year. Quite a few of these we lowered, as you can see.
Clothing allowance looks like the only one that jumped up, maybe because what?
Yeah, it's only like, what,
$60.
$60, so I may have rounded that.
Well, it moved up, I'm looking at actual 2009, 72, and then estimated 2010, 90. It looks like we're just spending more in general there on clothing.
Well, it's, sometimes we go out and buy, safety shoes. We don't do that every year. So, I increased gasoline and fuel a little bit. I probably should, based on the cost going up, I probably should increase that a little more.
I'm
Must be
sorry,
negotiated contract.
that's the line I was looking at. I was not going, clothing, I was looking at the wrong line.
Okay.
That's the line that went up. So
Yeah.
forget what I just said about clothing.
I think, to me, the more important lines are the ones that come lowest.
Yeah.
We've got a couple options here. At the bottom of page 3 and the top of page 4, I tried to summarize a couple things here. There's an opportunity for us to get a state grant, and maybe Greg can explain it a little bit better than I can. If we're able to get this state grant, then it will reduce what we have to spend in non-OPWC projects. And that's on page 3, towards the top. It's account 51782. If we can get that grant, we can lower that 438,000 to 100,000, and we can reduce down below in the 203 fund and the 223 fund. We can eliminate the $195,000 and the $185,000. And so what I've done is I've summarized for you at the bottom of that page how long it's going to carry us if we can get the grants or if we can't get the grants. And the first summaries there are all 4 of those funds. But the one you really want to look at is at the top of the next page 4. If we can get the grant, it looks like we can go almost out to 2015 if we're very careful. And this again is based on 0, 0, and 0 wages. Okay, and the 8% health insurance. So that may change. But if we don't get the grant, you can see where basically 2013 is going to be it under the 0, 0, and 0 wages.
What do we need to do? Where are we in the process, and when do we find out?
We have submitted the application. It's in Mark Drennan's hands at the county engineer's office. The next 2 or 3 weeks, the district integrated committee meets, and they evaluate and rank the projects basically towards the points that the application accumulated. Right now, our project accumulated 95, our application accumulated 95 points, which is very good. 91, 92 is probably the cutoff. So I think we have a strong chance of receiving some state grant money. I'm excited about this year's application, the way it turned out. Now, keep in mind, we played all the games possible. The county engineers is actually piggybacking on our application, which gave us more points on some of their road work on Whiteford Road. So we pulled all the aces out of the sleeves, you know.
Well, we don't have to make a decision about this budget next week, because we're not talking about rolling anything back. We hopefully will have information regarding the grant application by the time we vote on the overall budget in December.
Yes.
However, between now and then, we will be doing negotiating, so.
On page 4, we've kind of, Greg has given me some information, and I've tried to put it in the bottom, giving you some more information as to what we are going to try to do in 2011. And he's got a listing of 2011 annual task. We've got a listing of the OPWC loan payments. Those are interest-free payments, but they're still loan payments. Non-OPWC projects, the projects that he wants to do. I think you talked about trying to pave X number of miles every year. And that's part of trying to keep that up. And then the other requested OPWC local share projects are listed there. And then I tried to give you some idea as to what a 1 mil increase would be at the bottom line there in terms of total dollars, if we have to go ask for millage.
So this is not the wiggle room that we talked about earlier that the trustees could decide. You said we had a little bit of flexibility on increasing inside millage on the permissive motor vehicle license tax?
Oh, no. This is not.
No.
No.
This is the actual millage.
Voted millage.
Voted millage, and it would not be an inside mill because
Right.
we're at
Because
the
it's
max,
voted.
we're at 10
Right.
already. So it would be an outside mill.
Right.
But I'm just, for an informational purposes only, I just listed what an additional mill, based on the current valuation
Yeah,
that I've been given, would
Ooh.
collect.
lower than it used to be.
So it's everybody's house.
Yeah. I'm curious about that wiggle room, just so
Sure.
that we can know. I mean, I realize we're not talking about doing it, but,
A rough summary. And this is 15, 18 years ago. But if I'm not mistaken, state law allowed the Board of Trustees, I'm just going to use some round figures here, to add up to $4 per license plate renewal. I think the board at that time chose $2.75. So that's what I mean. There's still a little more
okay,
raising of the tax, I guess,
okay.
if the board chooses.
I'd like to have just some detailed information on that. That's the kind of thing that gets lost in history. So if we could just find out what the board did and when.
How many licenses are out there? I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's dependent on a whole lot of things, but let's
Yeah.
just make sure.
Depends on, well, you renew your license plates every year.
yeah, but how many of them are in the town? Now, that would be just strictly township residents that would, yeah.
Yes.
And then quite a few years after this was enacted, we had to audit the city of Toledo, city of Sylvania, because people would renew their license. They didn't know they lived in the township. Some monies went to the other communities. And,
I wonder if was it more expensive to audit than it was to collect?
oh, it was very, very worthwhile.
Oh, it was?
Yes. So, but
Well-
since then, every time that mistake occurred, the Department of Motor Vehicles updated their system. So,
Very interesting.
But just trying to give you some information to consider. The other thing that I wanted that we passed.
Excuse me, may I interrupt? I'm still stuck on millage here and taxes and.
Okay.
I'd like to know when was the last time we went to the public to ask for public improvement millage? I mean, I don't remember. It's been so long. So if we could have that, so, sorry.
Public improvement millage, okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to maybe do a search on our minutes and stuff.
Yeah, we can do that now.
Yeah, we can decide on him.
Okay, thanks.
The other single sheet that we handed out is the capital equipment for the road and bridge. And we've got anticipated fund balance carried forward in the road and bridge fund of $261,100. There's budgeted $200,000 in 2011 to go into that fund. In 2011, Greg would like to purchase the following items: 2 flail, am I saying that right, rear mowers at a grand total of $17,000. A Dodge 350 liftgate, and I'm assuming you're talking the total truck with liftgate and everything, at $50, and then an International 4900 tandem hook lift dump at $140. So a grand total of $207,000 is being requested that we purchase in 2011. Now, you can, I didn't ask him about any of these, so. And again, we've got items listed for 2012, 13, 14, and 15, so you can see where we're anticipating going for out to 2015.
This doesn't have anything budgeted for our tree yard waste dumping.
That's...
you are correct.
Yeah, that is, you're talking about leaf pickup and stuff?
Well, with the county stopping their program, are we going to be impacted by that?
Well,
Yes, we are.
township residents will
Yeah, have to pay.
lose a service, that's been typically free.
But when we pick it up, do we still take it out to the quarry and utilize their facility?
The last 2 years, we have not. We have dumped it at Cleanwood Recycling, free of charge. That may end at the end of this year. So which means we'll have to reactivate our operations at the quarry and bring in our own tub grinder and
Now, the leaf pickup is legally cannot be paid for out of the road and bridge fund, if I remember correctly. So we transfer from the general fund, and you can see that as a transfer in of $500,000 out of the general fund to pay for that. It's still, the expense is still showed in the road and bridge fund because it pays for the part-time people or the contractual temporaries, but the money, the revenue comes from the general fund. Now, this pickup that we just are experiencing right now, that's paid for out of the general fund.
that's the general household pickup, an old mattress or furniture or something.
Now, the brush pickup in the spring and fall, I don't know, if that's still part of the $500,000?
Yes, sir, it is. And actually, it's 4. It's the holiday tree pickup, April, July, and then September. That's all some sort of brush or yard waste that we offer on top of what the drop-off is.
Yeah.
We offer an enhanced premium service on that topic.
Sticking keeping with transfers in, advances in general fund, why, what was that and why is zero projected out?
I have to get to it.
I'm sorry, it's 42101.
Advances are zero because that's, an advance is something that you have to pay back.
Right, I'm wondering why we advanced, why did we advance this year? I just don't remember.
I'm drawing a blank too. I know we had it budgeted that way because we just had something anticipated. I'm gonna have to think about that. I can't remember for sure.
I don't remember either.
Yeah.
And I don't remember doing it. During 2010. Did we actually advance?
We haven't done it. It has not been done yet.
Right.
I have not come to you and asked you to officially.
No, I know. That's why I'm kind of stumped.
I'd have to go back and look at last year's budget, to be honest with you.
Because if we budgeted 291 and we haven't done it yet, and we don't remember why it's there, if we don't have to actually do it by the end of the year, then that's going to change our carryover balance for the rest of the spreadsheet.
That's right.
I guess it would be good to know what that was about.
Yep, and I apologize, I don't.
No, that's okay, I missed it the first time we went through the pages. Let's see if we can dig into that number,
Yep, we will.
because that certainly makes a difference in your budget.
Any questions?
Great job. I know this is really challenging, not only every year, but every day.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the work and the thought.
Actually, this is the fun part of the job.
The finished project, product.
No, this is the part I enjoy. Okay, I really love doing that part. You can get into that very heavily. Okay, so like doing the different scenarios, that type of thing. But as John and I discussed yesterday, that's in the last 3-4 months, there's been a few other things on my plate. So.
Well, it's
You did a
very
good
easy
job.
to read, easy to understand. I appreciate the footnotes. And I also appreciate the date.
Yes. That's a necessity for most part.
Well, it is, and it's surprising how many things, even though they're draft, if they're not dated, you don't know which one you're looking at, so that's good.
I do have couple other sheets that you may be interested in, and I'm going to give these to Greg, one of each. These are the permanent improvement and capital equipment fund, anticipated fund balance carry forwards. And I'm just getting those numbers from what I think we're going to spend at the end of the year, and that's what I'm using on that capital project. So. If you remember correctly, we transferred quite a bit of money from the general fund last year into the permanent improvement fund, so we're anticipating a pretty good balance. So if we, actually, the next meeting is the general fund, and I've actually put into the capital or permanent improvement fund the additional, or, the thing that we've talked about at the back end of our office, remodeling or tearing that old part down and adding a new one. So, it's there, but, and the money's there, I wouldn't have to borrow it.
Looks good.
Any other questions?
The next budget meeting is to talk about fire or general?
General.
And the,
And then the third one is the fire. And the fourth one, if needed, was to catch up on anything that we haven't talked about. That's the one we had to change because you were available. And then the first meeting in the month of December was scheduled to adopt the total budget.
why are we doing the general fund before the fire fund?
I don't know, I just worked at it that way.
Okay.
I worked at it that way.
That's
I mean,
fair enough.
I really don't, I haven't, now I'm going to have to spend some time with Jeff. I know he's never went through this process before, so I've got quite a bit of it done, but I want to go over it with him and look at some things. So.
Well, I'm just thinking as we go into the negotiating season, what we do in these budget workshops will have an immediate impact.
And anyone, on an individual basis, if you want to come in and set that with me on that, the fire fund at any time. I'm far enough into it that we can look at it.
Well, when is our next meeting?
I think it's the 28th.
2 weeks from today.
Yeah. Same time.
That may not give you and Jeff enough time to...
That's the general fund.
I know, but I was
Yeah.
just thinking if we switched it, it may not give you enough time really to
No.
be ready, or
No.
Jeff to be ready.
No.
All right. Okay. And then the next one's the 16th of November?
I think it's the off week, so our regular board meeting is the 3rd, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
but we moved it off of the 11th. We moved it out of that week.
Oh, we did. I was thinking it was in
It was.
first one in December that we moved. I'll have to go look at my list.
Okay.
I have 2 PM on the 17th,
On November 17th?
Wednesday, November 17th, 2 PM.
I
I
thought I tried.
have 2 PM on the 16th.
Was it the 18th that you couldn't be here?
The 11th.
The 11th. It was
Oh, the 11th.
originally scheduled for the 11th, and then that was Veterans Day, so we moved it to the 10th. And then I'm not going to be here on the 10th, so we moved it
To the 16th.
to the following week, one of those 2 days, either Greg or I. So,
I'll have to check with Susan.
so that's really the target date for,
The 16th is a 7 o'clock meeting.
right.
Okay.
Because I know there was one scheduled in December the 2nd,
Yep.
and that was the one that was going to just be in case we...
And if needed.
If needed.
Yep.
And then the adoption of the budget was scheduled for December the 7th.
I didn't think it was in hospice.
That I've got. Okay. Just, I think that, you've done a great job. I think that, there are a lot of assumptions that we're going to need to discuss at the board level. Certainly the obvious one, assuming the health insurance increase, and we'll maybe have a better indication soon so we can see what that does. Some of the other assumptions that we've talked about, we just have to be aware of as we go forward, because those can change. And, I'm a little concerned about a low guess on the gasoline. That, you might want to increase that,
For the road and bridge.
both.
Well, I think we did on the increased it.
Well,
We increased it quite a bit.
We increased it just to this year's level,
Right.
Yeah.
with a little wiggle room. Less than $1,000 wiggle room.
Yeah, I mean, I think fuel prices are gonna go up, but
Actually,
maybe other people think they're gonna stay the same. We just wanna,
I commented,
They started drilling in the Gulf again, but I don't see anything going down, so.
yeah, right, exactly.
I commented to Rob when we met that we needed to get more bicycles out there for the cars, so.
We do.
Horses.
But I am concerned about that price, maybe that's a little bit optimistic. It's not necessarily low, but optimistic.
Well, and you can always take this philosophy, I think I look at a budget as an overall budget, and maybe we're a little short in that particular line item, but maybe we're over in some other ones. And you don't know that until you get further into the year.
Sure.
And to try and estimate that we're gonna have enough money in each one of the line items for every line item is almost unrealistic, because stuff happens and you don't know. And other stuff may not, so that's the
Well,
approach.
it does, and I think that's why you can't you have to be able to see the forest and not just the trees. And I think the forest is looking good in both of these funds, it really is. But we have to be aware of where the danger points are. I think a danger point is always health insurance. I mean,
Right.
every year, it's just brutal.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna, and as I said, maybe we'll make that change quickly.
And it tends to be where the big numbers are.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Because that makes the greatest impact. And, I just am bringing it up, and if there are any other assumptions that we're concerned about, we gotta keep talking about it.
Address them as they come up.
Yep. That's, anybody else have any questions or comments for John?
No. Good job, it's a great, starting point, and I think it's easy to tweak from here.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, if there's nothing else, then I will offer motion 10-3, motion to adjourn at 3:37.
Second.
Jim, would you mind calling the roll?
Yes. Mr. Haddad,
Yes.
Mr. Genowine,
Yes.
Ms. Contrada.
Yes.
I'll turn off the recording.
Once again, Jim, good job on wearing multiple hats during the meetings.